Did you know LinkedIn has over 810 million members today, coming from over 200 different countries and territories around the globe? Their mission is to connect the world's professionals to make them more productive and successful. And if you are one of those 810 million members, you are going to absolutely love today's episode, because we are diving in how to make your LinkedIn profile and how to use LinkedIn to go from mediocre to amazing and get amazing results as you connect with those other 810 million members on LinkedIn. Okay, you may not need to connect with all of them, but you get the gist. And if you're not on LinkedIn yet, I have a feeling after today's episode, you're going to be heading over to create your account. So our guest today is Miranda von Fricken, and she helps leverage LinkedIn's awesomeness to elevate your personal brand and business. She's the founder of LinkedIn Growth Academy and host of LinkedIn Local. She's a speaker, strategist, and coach, and her energy is truly contagious in a great way. We had so much fun creating this episode around Miranda's top 5 and how they help her help you leverage the awesomeness of LinkedIn. So grab a notepad and pen, because you are definitely going to want to take some notes in today's episode. All right, let's jump into the show. Welcome to the Navigating Your Leadership podcast, where we are changing the wave of the future. Like it or not, the world has changed, and as an exceptional leader, you have to change with it or risk being left behind. Hi, I'm your host, Sherry Miter. I'm here to help you navigate this new leadership style. Inside the podcast, you'll discover what your team really wants and needs from you, how to tap into your God-given talents, how to increase your productivity with a strengths-based team, and how to realign with your North Star to truly enjoy your work and your life. This podcast will inspire and empower you today so you can elevate your influence into the future. If you're ready to step out of your comfort zone, then untie those dock lines and jump on board as we begin navigating your leadership. Before we jump into our great conversation with Miranda, I have a very special announcement to make. Finally, we are going to launch the Navigating Your Leadership Live Zoom events. These monthly events will be an opportunity for you to have extra training on a specific topic, and then have the opportunity to discuss, share, ask questions, and just network with other fans of the show. And this month, I'll be sharing tips on the topic. And I wanted to share a little bit about what we will be discussing. As you've probably heard, the Great Resignation has turned into the Great Reshuffle, leaving many companies wondering how to attract great employees while retaining their best team players. Did you know nearly 33 million people left their position since April of 2021, which is over 1/5 of the total U.S. workforce? And guess what? It's not ending anytime soon. In fact, according to 2022 trend reports on joblist.com, they report 3 out of 4 full-time employees are planning to quit their job in the next 12 months. Let that sink in a minute. 3 out of 4 full-time employees are planning to quit their job? So I'm on a mission to help employers like you, whether you work at a Fortune 500 corporation, you own a small business, or you're part of a fire department. I want to help with this dire situation. And it's our topic for our very first Navigating Your Leadership Live event. This month, I'll be sharing 5 tips to help you attract and retain star quality team players and create pride in your organization. You're going to learn what it takes to instill this pride so your key team members would never consider leaving, along with what it really takes to attract the right team members today. And here's a hint, it is not sign-on bonuses and a fabulous benefit package. Right now, these monthly Navigating Your Leadership Live Zooms are open to everyone, and they're 100% free. All you need to do right now is click on the link below to make sure you get on our mailing list. And you'll be one of the first to know when we set a firm date and time for this month's Live. And I'll be bringing the training. All you need to do is show up and bring your questions and ideas to add to the discussion. And yes, there'll even be a little time to network with other leaders and fans of the Navigating Your Leadership podcast. Cocktails will be optional. All right, my friends, I'm excited for this announcement, and I hope you're excited to join me on our very first live Zoom. All right, let's get back to our discussion for today and hearing all about LinkedIn Live from our guest, Miranda. Welcome to the Navigating Your Leadership podcast. This is your host, Sherry Miter, and I am excited to have my new friend, Miranda von Fricken, on today to talk to us about her top 5 strengths, but then also how they can help all of us plug into LinkedIn and become better at LinkedIn. To become LinkedIn, I don't know if we'd say experts because she's the expert, but she's going to give us some really good tips. I hope. I'm looking forward to this conversation. And I know that it's going to be fun and super informative. So welcome to the podcast, Miranda.
Thank you, Sherry. I am excited to be here.
Great. Well, before we jump into your top 5 strengths and LinkedIn conversation, can you share a little bit more for the audience on just share who you are and what you do today?
Of course. So I am an early stage entrepreneur coach that focuses on helping female business owners really level up on LinkedIn, get clear on their brand, their personal brand, use LinkedIn, leverage the power of that community and that platform to grow their business and their brand. So for me, it's all about helping people to do what they do more at a grander scale, whether they are entrepreneurs or even leaders within an organization. My focus is mostly on the entrepreneur, but I have tons of clients who are just looking to level up in their career in general and utilizing the power of LinkedIn to do that. So that's what I do.
Great. And what got you here? I know we've been kind of chatting back and forth on LinkedIn, but I always love people's backstory. What got you to this position and what got you so passionate about LinkedIn and helping entrepreneurs?
Yeah, so I actually started as a career director about 10, 15, a million years ago at a college. And I was on LinkedIn in the early 2000s to help my students connect to opportunities. So I had been on LinkedIn for quite some time back when it was a baby platform. It was more of a resume platform than anything else. But now it's turned into this beautiful place to grow community and to help people not only connect, but get their message out and to, of course, grow their business. So I transitioned from the career director into recruiting and then into my own side hustle, which then in about 3 or 4 years ago had become a full-time role for me. I had left the corporate space, taken all I could from that experience and brought it here to my now office in my home. And I help people all over the world use LinkedIn, just as I had to grow my own personal brand and business.
I like that you said that LinkedIn used to be and what it is today, because I hear that from people. Well, isn't LinkedIn just more of your job hunting?
It's a great place to job hunt, but it is not all that we use it for these days.
Right. And I'm hoping like during the conversation, we'll hear a little bit more about maybe some of the changes of LinkedIn and
of course,
again, who should be on it. And I feel like as leaders, most of the audience today, some are entrepreneurs, but we have a lot of leaders and hopefully we can be able to talk about and actually, well, let's start right now with that. Why, if somebody is a leader of a team, whether they are an entrepreneur or they work for another company, why should they be on LinkedIn?
So I was manager, leader, director at a corporation, and that's where I lived. Honestly, I mean, not just because I was a recruiter or in HR, but I promoted the culture of the company. So I used it for future employees that I was trying to attract and bring in. I also wanted to let whoever else was watching on LinkedIn know how amazing the company was, not only for their products and services, but to work there, right? So there's kind of a duality depending on what you're leading. If you're a product leader, maybe you're out there, doing thought leadership. You're writing articles about, whatever the next latest and greatest tech widget is, or, if you are even in, a completely different space, say you're in retail, maybe you're out there telling everybody about this service you have or this product you have and how great it is. And you're just, the education piece is really huge. Like, people are going to LinkedIn not only to be inspired and to be educated, but also to buy. So depending on, where you're at, if it really is just, I manage a team, and why does my team need to see me on LinkedIn? It's because you're showing authority, right? You're showing them your expertise. Of course, you should be doing it in the office. But publicly, LinkedIn is a wonderful place to really shine a light on your talents that you may not get to in the office. So I actually, back when I was a 9-to-5er, got recruited out of certain roles to work for another company because they were seeing what I was doing on LinkedIn. So even if you're not looking to leave your job, people are still watching and seeing you shine and seeing you grow. And there's so much to do and focus on LinkedIn as a leader, aside just from, talking about your product and potentially hiring people.
Yeah. And one thing you said in that I think is so relevant for today is also just shining the light on how amazing your company is.
Absolutely.
Because people are jumping ship faster than we can imagine, as we all know today with the Great Resignation, or now they're calling, I think, the Great Reshuffle.
The realignment.
Yeah. so many things.
All about that.
Yeah. So to be able to shine the light on your company and start attracting the right people,
right,
is powerful.
Absolutely. I mean, if you don't have a company page at this point and you are a company, what are you doing? What are you doing with yourself? Get on LinkedIn, get a company page, start making some amazing content to, show how great you are. Obviously, of course, what you do for the world business-wise, but what it's like to work at your company. And then there's a lot of tips we can go into, but I manage LinkedIn pages for companies and I have their employees share what I put out. So there is also that brand advocacy that your employees can be a part of and help to share the word and spread it to everybody who needs to see it too. So much to do.
Right. So, all right. So let's jump in. So Miranda's, and if you haven't been listening to the Navigating Your Leadership podcast for 2022, what we have been doing with our guests is talking through their top 5 talents and strengths and how they show up and how they use their talents and strengths to perform better at what they do, and how their talents and strengths can, again, help you perform better based on their knowledge. And as I was getting ready for this podcast, I was sharing with Miranda earlier, the last couple episodes I've been doing is really looking at people's personal insight report, which really is customized for each individual. And I love that report. But what I found was I was highlighting so many things in Miranda's that I thought that would take over the whole episode. And I really want to spend time talking about LinkedIn today. So we're going to change things up again slightly. And we're going to go through each of the top 5 in more of the generic format. But you're going to hear, I think, really how these talents show up in Miranda's life and in what she does, and why you need to really listen to what she shares today.
Absolutely. Get a notebook and a pen, people.
You should. You really should. I do think this is one you will want to take notes, and again, if you listen to the podcast regularly, sometimes I'm big on like, grab a pen and paper. You need to take notes on this one, or sometimes it's one, hey, just soak it all in and be inspired. Today's a take notes and probably replay it a few times.
Yes. And then reach out for questions.
Yes. So Miranda's top 5 are strategic, futuristic, maximizer, positivity, and activator. And Miranda and I did a little experiment of sorts because she took the CliftonStrengths top 5 assessment back in 2016. And as we were talking about doing this podcast episode, she wanted to retake it again. And I think, Miranda, I'm going to let you kind of share what happened with your top 5.
Of course. So in 2016, I was a 9-to-5er. I, at the time, was leading recruitment for a large tech company here in upstate New York. And I think what shined through was more about what I was doing for the company and for the people I was trying to bring in. Strategic and futuristic was still 2 of my top 5, but I had ideation, relator, and then individualism. And not that I don't feel those today, But it is funny how it related to the role I was playing back then. So today, I'm still strategic. I still think of the future, but I'm more into activating others and maximizing what it is they do as a coach, which makes complete sense. And then that positivity piece, I probably wasn't very happy back then as a 9-to-5er. So maybe that didn't shine through. And now I'm living my best life. So obviously that shined through a little more.
Right. And I've shared this before, that normally when you retake the assessment, unless there's been major life change, like trauma, major life change, things don't change drastically, but they may reshuffle a little bit.
Right.
And we don't have Miranda's yet, her 6 through 10 or the rest of the report. My guess, though, is the ones that popped up into the top 5 were in your 6 through 10 before, and maybe even 11 through 14. And you weren't able to really, like you said, use them, especially like positivity, things like that. Whereas in your new role, they were able to kind of pop up a little higher. But generally things, in case you're wondering, should I retake this? Generally, your number 34, it's a very rare if your bottom 5 are going to move to your top 5.
Yeah, I don't think it was that drastic. Yeah. I think we'll have to do a follow-up. Maybe you can put it in the show notes.
Yeah.
What my 1 through 10 were. I have a feeling this was probably 1 through 10, just a little shuffled. Not so much based on what I did, but I think because of, honestly, my spiritual awakening as a human, going from 9-to-5 life to entrepreneurship. I think I've owned more of who I am as an individual. So I think my values probably came out a little more now that I'm owning who I am versus back then when I was trying to like fit into a box. So I think I felt a little different back then, a little less of who I am. So I think that was, although that was not traumatic, it wasn't a huge shift, but it's a big piece of our life, what we do for a living, and finally taking ownership of who you are and doing what you're meant to do and following your calling in this world is a shift. And I think that's what's reflected.
Right. Absolutely. I would totally agree. And I know as I read through your insight report and I compared the two, it was fun to see that because you could really hear that, oh, she is so in alignment with where she's supposed to be today. Like it came through. It was really, actually it gave me chills just saying that. So really cool. So let's talk about strategics.
All right.
So strategic, some of the notes on this, strategic people with high strategics, they see a way when others assume there is no way. They can quickly spot relevant patterns and issues, and they find the best route moving forward. They can be creative and imaginative. And when you hear that, like, how does that show up in your life? And how do you use that with helping people set up their LinkedIn?
Yeah, you're going to laugh. When you were reading that, it even came up this morning, putting up a shower curtain with my husband. I saw a way when the thing wasn't working, and it's hilarious anyway, but that it does show up. That is a strength in me, no matter where I am, LinkedIn or at home. But on LinkedIn, some people will say, oh, I don't belong on LinkedIn, right? That's not a platform for me. I love the unlikely LinkedIn. I think they do a fabulous job of attracting people because they are unlikely, because you're not seeing that typical person on LinkedIn. Maybe it's a plumber, right? Maybe it's a makeup artist. Maybe it's, esthetician, a clothing designer. You don't typically think of those as like the corporate office people that you would typically find on LinkedIn. But I love those. Those are my favorite. I actually have started more and more working with like wedding planners and people who are like, nope, I'm all Instagram. And I'm like, stay on Instagram because you definitely belong there. But let's talk about LinkedIn. Let's get you tapped in over here, because the people who are playing on LinkedIn may not typically play on Instagram, right? Those corporate people, but I bet you they're getting married. I bet you they wear makeup or have clothes. I bet you they have a house who typically needs a plumber sometimes, so I'm a huge fan of seeing a strategy for someone who thinks there is none. And that's how it shows up on LinkedIn.
Oh, such good stuff there. Such good stuff. And I have high strategy or strategic myself. So I totally relate. Going back to the shower curtain, that could be a whole nother conversation we could get into, because there's always a way. There's always a way. Don't tell me no, right?
I mean, they do make these shower curtains really crazy these days. There's just no need for that.
Yeah. I had a whole thing yesterday. And again, that could be a whole nother podcast on people with high strategic, what drives them crazy, right?
Yeah.
Because
there's always an answer.
There's always an answer. Always an answer. Never know.
Even if the answer is there's no way to do this, but there's always
right.
There's always an answer. Just take a step back, see it from different angles. Absolutely.
Yeah. I love that. And what you're saying about LinkedIn, that so makes sense, because we're all human. The sink gets clogged. Somebody's getting married in our lives, whether it's us or child.
Yeah.
The real life things are happening.
I mean, a nanny, who would say like, oh, let's put a nanny on LinkedIn. Not that I've seen one, but I'm going to go look for one now.
Right.
But how many working parents may need a nanny and would love to see someone building content around taking care of your child while you work? And it would be beautiful to see. I'd be a little nervous that she was more on LinkedIn than taking care of my child, but that's a different story. Right. But as long as she's not out there doing the reels, right? And dancing on Instagram. So, and I think what you're saying makes so much sense, because I know for myself, the more I've moved over to LinkedIn over Instagram, the less time I'm spending on Instagram. Instagram is driving me crazy now. It's entertainment. To me, Instagram's entertainment, whereas LinkedIn, and you can correct me if I'm wrong in here, but LinkedIn, I feel like, are real valuable connections. They are. And I don't want to put down Instagram, although that's not it's my second site that I play on. And I am trying to actually build that a little more. So, but I feel it. I feel what you're saying. It's different. On LinkedIn, I'm having beautiful conversations with people in the DMs, where on Instagram, I'm getting like people to ask me to wear bathing suits and promote their stuff. And I'm like, what the crap? Like, I know Instagram is more than that. That's just what I'm seeing right now. And I know I'm not alone, but I think in the beginning, it was for visual, right? It's more visual. It's beautiful. Look at these photos. The colors are popping, where you can take a little bit of that and bring it over to LinkedIn and still have beautiful photos and still make everything pop, but then have a beautiful conversation too that goes along with it, not only in the comments, but in the DMs. And there's more people on LinkedIn than ever. So they're excited to meet people, to have these coffee chats, or to just get to know you in the threads.
I like that. Is there an age, like, what are you seeing as far as demographics or age of the different, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn?
I think the demographic on LinkedIn is a little older, because now it's probably balancing out a little more than ever, as the 23 to 27 year olds are in the workplace and they're loving their life professionally. They're on LinkedIn too. I see tons of, what are they called? Zillennials now, Gen Zs. I see tons of them on LinkedIn, and they're doing fabulous stuff. They're bringing some really cool stuff, like even audio that's now on LinkedIn, bringing it to LinkedIn, live videos. And I see, obviously there's tons of millennials. There's tons of all different age levels on LinkedIn. I'm connected to everybody from like 20 to 70 on LinkedIn. I think it's just the average age is probably around like 25 to 45, I would say. So it may skew a little older because it is more for the professional. And I think maybe the younger generations are on other sites like Instagram or TikTok, and they may think they don't need to be on LinkedIn yet. That's for when I'm older.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So let's move on to Futuristic. And again, it's interesting. We have 3 in common for our top 5, and 5 that are in or 4 of them are in my top. 4 of your 5 are in my top 10. So no wonder we hit it off. So Futuristic, people with high Futuristic are inspired by the future and what could be. They preview, predict, and forecast. They translate what could be into an action plan. So talk to us a little bit about how do you see your Futuristic playing out in what you do today?
So I'm LinkedIn psychic. I just made that up. No, I think it's because I know I'll write it down, add a hashtag in front of it. Yeah. I think that being able to see what somebody's currently doing in their business or on other sites, I can pretty much see what will happen in the next year for them on LinkedIn. So I will plan it out in my head. I see it, then I'll put it down on paper for them and I'll have a conversation with them about here's what I predict. And this is why I actually, when I manage LinkedIn pages, I manage them either by the quarter or by the year, because usually the quarter is only like people who aren't believers yet. So I have to convince them in Q1 and Q2. And then all of a sudden they're like, all right, I believe it, like do the whole year, because I can see what's going to happen, but it doesn't mean that they can, right? And maybe they can if they have the same strengths as I do, of course, but I can see what will happen just based on, their activity on other sites, what their goals are, who their audience is. And then if I don't think it'll happen fast enough, my strategic pops in and I give them a plan to get there. So based on what I always ask my clients or whoever I'm working with on LinkedIn, what are your goals for LinkedIn? Why do you think you need to be here? I don't think everybody and their brother needs to be here, but it is definitely a place for the majority of people to work. And if they say, I think I need to be here just because everybody else is, then we'll have a different conversation. But I always see what type of, depending on your industry, where you can go on LinkedIn and where you'll be most successful and potentially what the outcomes will be. Because not everyone wants to do sales. Like not everyone wants to bring in clients. Some people just want to create a brand and be known for something. Sometimes they just want to get promoted in their 9-to-5, be seen as a leader. And I'll say, all right, then we're going to focus heavy on thought leadership. And here's how we're going to do that. Here's the groups you're going to play in. And so the future is where it starts. Then the strategic kind of takes over.
Mm-hmm. And I know you mentioned earlier before we hit the record button, talking about the long game.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit more about that, Miranda.
Absolutely. So I know social media is very instant gratification, but if you focus on the long game, building the community, building relationships, it ultimately builds a funnel for your business. So I tell people to go in and focus on friendships, not funnels, but it is still building a funnel if you're in business. What does it take? Like 7 touches before somebody buys something, or 3 to 4 before they purchase a book, but they have to hear it from other people. So if you're on LinkedIn and you're focused mostly on engaging with the community, that takes a little longer than just clicking connect, but it's more quality than quantity, right? So if you have 1,000 connections on LinkedIn and they're really engaged, that's better than the 100,000 of followers that don't even see your stuff because you're not really out there engaging. The long game is all about engagement. It's not going to be an overnight, success kind of situation. You're not going to go from, I just got on LinkedIn to now I have 5,000 followers. But if you get in there and commit to it and stay really consistent over time, you will see huge rewards and benefits for your efforts. So I say it's a long game because I don't want anyone to get on there and think they're all of a sudden going to save their business overnight. I want them to go in thinking long game, so they are a slow and steady kind of builder, but they can kick it up a notch and it takes a little less time. So if you go in there hoping that you're building these friendships and connecting with people who you can really, change the world with, as opposed to just get them to buy your widget and be done, then I think you'll be more successful.
I like that. Create friendships over funnels.
Yeah.
Another hashtag, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I talk about that a lot in the DMs when I do specific trainings. And my last one was on direct messaging on LinkedIn. And it was all about go in to build that relationship. Don't think you're going in to sell them something or to, get on their calendar. You're just having a conversation. And it really does relax people a little more than all right, will this person buy in 7 touches? And what's the automation look like? I hate automation, but I get that it's a benefit to some. But yes, build 5 friends over building 500 followers. And
I love
you'll
that.
Make more money. Yeah, absolutely.
I love that so much. So much. I've always been about it's the quality versus the quantity of it.
Absolutely.
And I think we lose sight on that. And it takes time to build the quality relationships. And the other thing too is a lot of times the person we're connecting with may not ever be our client,
right?
Or do business with us, but they know a lot of people. And if we have a true relationship with them and connection with them, and we make, they see who we are as a person and they connect with that, they'll refer people to us eventually when they find somebody that needs our services.
Yeah. And on LinkedIn, if you take that a step further, they may just engage in our content and all of their network sees us. So they don't even have to refer us to someone. Just by engaging in a conversation with us, they're already putting our name out there. So that's why it's even better on LinkedIn to build that friendship, because of so many rewards and benefits that come from it with a little bit of effort.
I love that. I love that. So I'm seeing your strategic come through and your futuristic come through in there. And then we move to your maximizer. People with high maximizer, they're kind of like a talent scout. And their motto is excellence, not average. Mm-hmm. They love to transform something strong into something superb. They focus on quality, we were just talking about. And they create really a new standard of success. And to me, when I read that when I was preparing for this, I was like, well, that's exactly what we want to do with our LinkedIn profile, is to go from maybe your profile right now is okay, maybe even it's good, but how can we bump it up a notch?
Absolutely. I ask people who's on LinkedIn, and I'll have a show of hands, and then I'll say, all right, who is active on LinkedIn? And like a lot of hands go down. So even just that, like you can have a profile, fantastic. Or I meet them where they are, no matter where they are on LinkedIn, what level of engagement, but we should always be leveling up. Even myself, who has tons of connections, lots of engagement, like I'm always looking to do something next level. And you're not kidding when what you said, what was it? Excellence, not average. Across from me, you can't see, is on my wall, a huge banner that says, don't do average, do awesome. Like awesome is my jam. Like excellence is where I'm always thriving in life and in business, especially on LinkedIn, because the better you do on LinkedIn, it kind of trickles into all of the other areas of your business and sometimes in your life. And I know it sounds weird talking about LinkedIn helping us in life, but I had a big loss in my family a few years ago, and I disappeared from LinkedIn a little bit. I was sad and didn't really post. And people came to me who were used to seeing my content and would be like, "Where you been, girl? What's going on?" And then little by little, I'd start talking about it, and I made tons of friends from that situation, just with people trying to, help me or share their story or talk about loss in their life. And I was back at work at a certain time and they're like, "How are you?" And I'm like, "Oh my goodness, this is LinkedIn. Are you kidding me? This is where you post your resume. This isn't where people help me heal through a grieving process." And so that's when I talk about quality, like that's crazy that you could even find like friendships, true friendships from a platform. And it's just one of the beautiful side effects of leveling up on LinkedIn.
I love that.
Yeah.
So if somebody is thinking, okay, my LinkedIn profile is probably mediocre, it's average, what would be a couple of tips you could give them to up it up a notch?
Of course. So just from the profile perspective, I say start from the top, right? So at the top section, before you start scrolling, what you see are the two photos, that main background photo and the main headshot photo. You've got your headline, you've got the two little squares with your education and the job that you're working with, and potentially you have services offered, or if you're hiring someone, or if you're looking for work, you can add that little section to it. And I always ask people on the profile, how can you make your top pop, right? Like make it pop, make it scream, like call to action, make people want to scroll down. So I would tell people to make sure that main background photo, if you don't have one, please put one there. Just check that box, right? But that is a billboard opportunity. If you're a business owner or even a leader, it doesn't matter. But for a business owner's perspective, think about driving down the street, you're at a red light and there's a billboard. They've got 10 seconds to catch our attention before we start driving and the light turns green. Same thing with LinkedIn. Like you have to catch people's attention if you want them to do something. What is it you want them to do? Is it to just, scroll down? Maybe you want them to see your resume that you posted in your featured section. Maybe you want them to go to your website. So that billboard background photo is such an opportunity. I create a lot of them in Canva. You can use the free version of Canva. Some people, if you work for a corporation, and you're really focused on that corporation, put your giant logo back there, right? Just make them like, hey, this is who I work for and this is how we're awesome. And same with the headline. So really call to actions, tell people what you do. Don't just put your title in the company you work for. What do you do at that company? How do you make transformation with that organization? How are you leveling up in that organization? And that's where people will start to take notice. So I say start with the top, and then when that's done, go all the way down to the bottom and get some recommendations. That middle section is fantastic, and we need to fill it all in and make it look great, especially the about and the featured section. But I think the top and the bottom is where I love to focus people at first, because it's easiest, right? Like the top part is very design focused. The bottom part is just getting recommendations from people that think you're awesome, right? So there's your proof. And then we'll tackle the middle from that point forward. But that's just for the actual profile. There's so much to do on the platform side of things. And engagement is the number one thing I can tell people to do. If they're playing small on LinkedIn right now, they're going to get small. If you want to get a little more from it, follow groups. If you're a thought leader, follow those groups. What are they talking about? Join the conversations, and then start initiating your own conversations on the platform yourself and invite people to that conversation. So that way they'll come to you. You'll have beautiful conversations. People will see it. You'll level up. It'll be great. But it all does start with the profile.
Great information.
Don't bring them to your profile if it looks crazy. Yeah.
So 2 questions. This is just one purely selfish, personal, but I think it'll help others too.
Okay.
So with the top, make the top pop. So I'm always questioning, what should I put in? And I don't know what the actual, but you know how you have those 5 lines or whatever they are right underneath your picture. It's like
your headline.
And I've changed everything. Sometimes I have a quote. Sometimes I have exactly what I do, like my title. Sometimes I have something different. Like, what is the best thing to put there? What are you trying to do there?
Yeah. So there's 3 different formulas you can use, and who I am and what I do, like HR manager at XYZ company is definitely one of those things you can do. But what is that telling people about you? Nothing, just your title and your company. So I like to use the formula. I do X. So what do you do, right? For Y, who do you do it for? By Z. So the way that you actually do it. So mine would look something, and I change mine all the time too. It depends on like when the spirit moves, I'm somebody different, right? But what I do is still the same. So
your top 5 changes. Now you got to change your profile, right?
I know, right? I'm a maximizer. Let me go back in and change that background photo. So I help business leaders level up on LinkedIn, right? That's pretty much what I do, who I do it for, and how I do it will go on like lines 2 and line 3, because technically when you're commenting or if they're hovering over your name, they're really only going to see that top line. So right away, I help entrepreneurs on LinkedIn. So bam, right away. And then the next line is something like to be seen, to be found through one-on-one coaching, a little bit more of how I do it, which the one-on-one coaching, group training, speaking, stuff like that. And then if there's still more space, I'll throw in a call to action. Check out my website for more details. And then obviously there's a link to learn more, or go to my business page for more details. So if there's space, which there should be, because you really should condense it, like give them pretty much who you are, what you do, and how you can help them in line 1.5. And then the second half and full line can be a call to action. Yeah, because I think a lot of people are missing the opportunity. There's more space than you think. And a little ninja trick is you can put more characters if you type it in on your phone than you do on your PC. So keep that in mind. If you're like, I wanted to add one more word, well, just go to your phone and add that word.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. And I had another question from before and it totally went out of my head. So
well, we were talking about making your top pop. So did it have anything to do with that?
I'm sure it did, but it's gone. It's gone.
It'll come to you.
But that was good. But I do have another question based on what you just said. So should most of us have, like, when do we know if we need a personal LinkedIn profile and then a business profile?
So if you have a business, you should have a business page. That's kind of like at the simplest answer for that. Here's my thought though. So my business is me, right? Like I am a personal brand. I have a business page. I'm not super engaged in it because I have 18,000 followers or connections on my personal page. I probably have like 75 people following my business page. I do need to get a little more active on the business page side of things for this reason. I may be a personal brand, but I sell services, right? I sell things. I want your money. I'm not going to be shy about it, but I don't want to bombard my followers on my personal page with the sales conversations. I don't want to sell them stuff there. I want them to get to know me, get to know my brand, know, like, and trust me, and then drive them to my business page to do business, right? So that's something I do with my clients. We work a lot on the business page. We'll tag the personal page so you know you're the owner of that business page, obviously. But you can do a lot of, education, thought leadership. You can do a lot of salesy type stuff, drive them, information on the business page. But on the personal page, it's a little more inspiration, edutainment. Of course, I'm going to tell people on my personal page that I train on LinkedIn, but maybe I'm not going to put the Eventbrite to go to the event, to buy my stuff there. Maybe I do that on the business page, but you can do them on both, right? But there's definitely a different energy with the business page than there is the personal page. If you're a 9-to-5er and you don't need a business page, your company should have a business page, and you can share the company's content to your personal page. But if you are, so even I have like real estate agents that I work with, they have their business page of the company they work for, the real estate agent, but they're essentially their own business too. So we do focus though their personal page more than the company's business page. I'll partner with the company on the business page and have the employee be an ambassador. So there's definitely, so if you just say like, how do I know? So it depends on what your business is, right? Like, so if you are, a network marketer, I would probably stick with your personal page. But if you're a tech company and you do cybersecurity, I would definitely have a business page more so than just the personal page. Another big thing to ask is, do I have employees? Right? If you have employees, you should have a business page so they can then attach to your business page and be able to grow that for you as well.
Okay, that makes sense. If somebody's new to LinkedIn and they're like, okay, I can't do two right now, which one's more important for them?
Business or personal?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, personal. If they're new to LinkedIn, start with the personal because this is more of a human to human type of environment. So start with the personal, get that going. You can actually create a business page if you have your own business, so you don't have that sad gray square next to where the logo should be, which is how I started my business page years ago because I was like, ew, I don't want that sad gray square. So I put my little logo in there. And, from that point forward, people know that's a legit company. It's got a page, but on my business page, I tell them to go back to my personal page for all the good stuff, or go to my website, so the actual business page can act as a landing page if you don't have a website yet either. Think of that too.
Oh,
maybe you can't afford a website.
Right.
You're like, I am a business and I want to get a website up, and that's thousands of dollars to start a website. Oh, I mean, you could do it yourself, of course, but if just use the LinkedIn page, right? Like use the business page and drive people there and claim your URL. So it actually is, the name of your business, and share that.
Oh, perfect. So Miranda just saved you guys a lot of money and a lot of time. Now you hire her to help you out on LinkedIn. All right, let's move to your number 4 and number 5 here. So number 4 is positivity. And you can probably hear Miranda's positivity coming through in everything she says and does. So somebody with high positivity they are at their best when they are encouraging others to be more productive and hopeful. They have infectious energy and enthusiasm. So how do you use your positivity to motivate others, Miranda?
It's funny, that word infectious takes on a different meaning these days, right?
Oh, right. I didn't even think about that.
People would always say like, oh, your energy is contagious. And I'm like, that's so weird to me. But now it's even more weird. But, I totally get it.
Good, contagious and infectious. Yes. Yeah.
It's not as pretty as it used to be. Yeah. So I love to encourage, so I'm a life coach too, right? So outside of my business strategy and LinkedIn awesomeness, I am a certified life coach. I am a motivational speaker. I have a master's in motivation and life fulfillment. So I grew up like always positive, always seeing the best in people, always just encouraging people to do better and be their best and, own their voice. And I still do that today in business. So how the positivity reflects in the work I do is when people are feeling down on themselves, when the negative self-talk takes over, or the imposter syndrome happens as a business owner, that's where I come out and start to, slap that out of them, of course, but also encourage them towards the truth, which is that they are not imposters, that they can do this, and that there's people less successful than them rocking LinkedIn. And it usually motivates them and encourages them to get their head out of their butt and get moving.
I like that. That's true positivity tied in with maximizer and strategic in there. Like, no, we're not staying here, right?
It's pretty much, I am your coach. Let's just do this. Like
right.
these five results are just hilarious to me because it's so true. This
right.
test clearly works.
And I think when people, if they follow you, they see that in you.
Yeah.
So they know if they hire you for a coach, to work with, they know what they're going to get.
Absolutely. They know right away from the hot pink and sparkles that they see on LinkedIn and the emojis that I overuse. I'm pretty obvious in my visual branding that you are going to get some laughs. You're going to have a good time. There's tons of high energy. There's probably going to be a confetti bomb. It's obvious from first sight of what's going to happen when you have an experience with me. It will be an experience.
Yeah, I think those were one of the things that, and I know you and I talked about this before, that we don't remember where we actually connected, but we knew there was a connection and that it continued to grow on LinkedIn.
Yes.
Until, we got to this, but I know this is just the beginning of that same, because we have I love the energy. I love the positivity and the energy that you bring to everything.
Yes.
I'm not afraid of your infectiousness.
Fantastic. Here it comes.
So the final one is Activator. And activators are quick to start. They make a decision, take action, look at results, and learn along the way. They truly are the catalysts who get things started by turning ideas into action.
Absolutely. That's all me.
So on that note, and I'm looking at the time here, and, we're coming to the end of the podcast. Using your activator, what would you say to someone that their 3 top action steps would be when it comes to their LinkedIn page? Yep. Assuming they're already on there. We're going to take that one out of the thing. They're already on LinkedIn. So now what?
Yeah. So assuming your profile looks fantastic and it's fully optimized, here's what you do next. You live in the search bar to find who it is you're meant to speak to, right? Who is your ideal audience? Who do you want to communicate with? Find them. Where are they hanging out? And then start engaging in their content in that group. Follow certain pages. So you, at the very least, are talking to no one, to the people who aren't meant to hear your message, right? So then now that you've got the right audience and you're building that correct audience, then you're engaging with them, right? So join the conversations, share their stuff, really get to know them, DM them, not slimy, don't sell them stuff, just get to know them, friendship over funnel. And then from there, start to create your own content, right? Start to be that thought leader you want to be. And you can do that very easily without putting pressure on yourself to reinvent the wheel or to create something new and beautiful from scratch every single time you post. You can get a spark from that engagement piece, right? Somebody says something, you're like, oh my goodness, that's so true, or I don't feel that way at all. Take that to your page and start that conversation from scratch. Bring it to your audience. You can tag that original person if you want to bring them to that conversation, or just have it on your own. There's a woman today who posted something about, if you don't change, you're making the choice to stay the same, or it was something along those lines. And I was like, oh, snap. Like, she made me think. And it was just a motivational quote, but that one, sometimes it hits a little harder than other ones. So today in my content, I am going to talk about that fact that some of us are making a choice to stay the same. So we need to stop complaining. So it's a different thought, but it's based off of her original post, and I'll tag her in it, and she'll comment, and her audience will see me, and it'll be a nice conversation for my audience and potentially hers. So that's where you can kind of like ease your way into creating original content by being inspired by somebody else's. So you're going to connect to the right people, you're going to engage in the conversation, and then you're going to create your own content from there. And that's how you grow.
I love that. And just from an activator's point of view, take action. Don't overthink it, right?
Yeah, don't talk about it. Be about it.
Oh, I like that. You have all the quotes for your top 5.
I know. So true.
So anything else that you would like to add, Miranda, as we're closing down the podcast, on how your strengths show up in your life and help you succeed, or anything about LinkedIn?
Absolutely. So how they show up in my life, it's funny. You don't often think, oh, I'm being a strategic person right now. Like, you often just do it because that's who you are. But knowing what they are can actually remind me to step in and to lead into some of these when I'm not sure what to do. I'm like, wait a minute, I'm an activator, so let's do this. Why hold back? So it is kind of cool to like have this as your foundation for how you're going to act in life and business. And then LinkedIn, oh my gosh, just connect with me, Miranda Von Fricken. Find me on LinkedIn. Join my conversation, start them of your own, and invite me to them. I've got lots of different things I can sell you, of course, but if you're interested, you know where to find me.
Yes. And we will definitely have Miranda's links will be in the show notes. And obviously you can find her on LinkedIn, but we'll also put your website. I know you just redid your website, and I haven't even checked that out yet.
Oh my gosh, so much confetti. You're going to love it. Yes. And I do actually, for your audience, have both, for everybody who's listening, LinkedIn Local is my free networking connection event that I host. It's the first Wednesday of every month at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And there's a link to that. So if you are interested in joining a free networking group, just come in, say hello, come as you are, wear pajamas, we don't care. Get to know some cool people. It's LinkedIn Local Albany, but it now has become LinkedIn Local Albany and beyond, because there's so many different countries and states that join us outside of Albany. But it's pretty cool to get to know your people behind the profile. So feel free to join that as well.
That sounds great. Well, thank you for that. And thank you for being on the show. And yes, follow Miranda if you just need a little boost of positivity in your life. She's so fun to watch on LinkedIn, and, definitely the kind of contagiousness we want in our lives right now. So
yes, the good kind.
Yes. All right, Miranda. And I forgot to ask you this, so I feel like I'm putting you on the spot, but, and I know you have them in your office, so you can probably look around. You already shared a few of them, but any last minute quotes that you just absolutely love, and or book recommendations, if you have anything off the top of your head. No pressure though.
I'll just read the quote off of my coffee cup, first of all, for that. It just says, coffee in one hand, confidence in the other. So I am a huge fan of creating your confidence. I don't think we're born with it. I think we make it. So taking action creates confidence, which helps you grow. And as for books, oh my goodness, I know your people can't see, but I've got all the books behind me. The one I'd like to recommend, though, is called The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. I love building foundations, strong foundations. So as silly and crazy and in your face and maximizer that I am, I teach a lot about self-leadership and foundation in business and in life. And that's a really great one to start with, because the compound effect works both ways. So whether you're eating donuts or you're drinking all the water, it compounds to be better or worse. And LinkedIn is a huge example of that. The compound effect that works on LinkedIn just by showing up is tremendous. So yeah, I recommend that one.
I love that book. And that goes back to that whole strategic and futuristic that we talked about. You have to be in it for the long haul.
Absolutely.
And little bitty steps makes a huge difference in both directions, as you said. So, Miranda, this show, recording this did not disappoint. I knew it would be fun. And I appreciate you for adding so much value to the listeners today on LinkedIn. And I hope it inspired everybody. If you don't have a LinkedIn page, get over there.
What are you doing?
Yes. We need to show up, tag both Miranda and I. We'll follow each other and continue to grow our businesses together. So thank you for being on the show.
Thank you.
My hope and prayer is that today's episode left you feeling inspired and empowered with some tangible steps to implement today. But honestly, the podcast is just the beginning. Through my coaching, my clients learn how to lean into their strengths to create their unique style of leadership, along with gaining strategies to create dynamic and productive teams. Teams with a mutual passion and respect for each other. Whether you just need a few small course corrections or you feel like you need an entirely new ship to lead, I do love a challenge. I'd love to invite you to send me a DM, or better yet, let's hop on a call and see how we can continue this leadership journey together. The link to book a call is in the show notes. I look forward to hearing from you.